I'm going to give it one more minute and then we can start. I really don't want to spend a long time tonight.
For some reason.
Yeah. Kevin is picking up his daughter at the airport, so he is going to be late, but I'm not sure about everybody else. Hi, Robin.
Hey, Woody.
Well, why don't we start? We have a quorum, so we might as well get going. And we don't have a long agenda tonight, so hopefully this will go quickly. So let me just do a roll. Nina,
Here.
Marty,
Yeah.
Simone,
Here.
Mish,
Here.
and I'm here. Great. So I don't think this was first on the agenda, but Nina, you and Simone talked to Carol and Jody.
Yes.
So do you want to update the rest of us about what your conversation was and kind of what
Sure.
you're thinking is?
Generally, there was a lot of information that we would also be able to find out on the website, which is a pretty good site. This is regarding the MBTA Communities Act. And the focus is going to be on the town meeting, which is it September 18th? I always get the date mixed up. But I think it's September 18th where they're hoping to
I
get
think the meeting is 29th.
the 29th. Thank you.
Informational meeting is August 18th.
Right, and there's exactly. So the representation from the Warrant Committee on the 18th, which I can make, would be critical. They really want us to understand and support the MBTA, the plan for the MBTA Communities Act so that Dover comes into compliance. And basically that compliance is a plan for a site on County Court. I think we might have discussed this earlier. And it's, to me, this is a little bit like confusing in the sense that you have to have the plan, but you don't have to actually act on it. Dave explained that, I think, in the last meeting. And so I think the planning board will need to drive home to people in town that might have their hair on fire that it's a 40, was it 40?
40B.
40B. 40B, right, thank you. Affordable housing project, which it's not. And it doesn't interfere with the override that we have on sewers, meaning we won't be forced to have sewers and have dense housing. So none of that will apply. So I think that's a big part of their communication effort. And to that end, they're going to produce something that's a little bit like the Blue Book, but not the Blue Book, so that people in town can understand that. But it's important that all the committees in town, of course, the Warrant Committee, show up to the meeting for when they need a quorum, and for two, to support the fact that Dover should really be in compliance, because the downside, as we've discussed previously in other meetings, is that we lose a lot of grant funding. And there have been challenges you've probably read about in the Globe from Milton and Needham, and they're just spending tons of money and not getting anywhere with the Commonwealth. So, I mean, to me, it seems pretty clear that there's, low risk to any change in the culture and the rural, semi-rural feel of Dover in enacting this, and the risk of voting it down would be far greater in terms of the revenue town would lose, and then the revenue the town would have to spend probably hundreds of thousands of dollars on legal fees. So I think that's the nutshell. Did I miss anything, Simone?
Oh, I think the only reinforcement I would say is that they are preparing to really focus on the discussion that need to happen And they are working with Jim Repetti on that to make sure that we don't get derailed during the town meeting with everything else that could come associated with the potential of building more houses here. So we really need to bring everybody just to the MBTA portion of the discussion, and wishes can be discussed in another opportunity.
So, Robin, before you comment, did you two talk between yourselves about what you thought the process for review for the warrant committee ought to be? How do you want people to inform themselves what the I think the proposed bylaw on the website now is still described as um, unfinished, or at least not approved yet. So at some point that the wording has to be finalized, obviously. But what do you think as a committee we should do for our review, and then kind of timing of voting and all?
Yeah, it's a good question. We didn't discuss that specifically, other than the fact that Carol and Jody were asking for our support. I definitely recommend looking at the website for information. I found it useful. Showing up to the meeting in August, I believe, Simone, you'll be away, so I'll certainly represent. And hopefully coming out of that, I could produce some sort of summary, more executive type summary for this committee. If you have other suggestions, I'm like on the learning curve here, so I don't really, I haven't really thought about other ways to communicate to the committee. But if there's a suggestion you have that would make it streamlined for everybody, I'm happy to do that after the 18th. And then there again, the planning board is going to issue an executive summary as well. So that will be in advance of the town meeting. And I think if it's appropriate, that it would be good for us to distribute that to people that we know, just because otherwise, even though it's going to be mailed like the Blue Book, as you know, that could get thrown in the circular bin. So I think educating as many people as we know and getting them to show up. I think Carol and Jody's worst nightmare would be that the people in county court, who obviously might oppose this plan, would be the ones to show up, and they'll be the only ones to show up, and then the town would vote no. So it's important to get people who have a broader perspective than just people who live on county court.
Okay. Robin, did you want to comment?
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure, so, I think it's really important that everybody really understand the facts. And the facts here are, this is a law that was passed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's a zoning requirement, not a building requirement.
Right.
And that is a really very, very, very important distinction to make. What this requirement does is it requires all towns that are MBTA communities or MBTA adjacent communities to designate an overlay district. So the planning board, as part of their information sessions, floated 3 different areas within the town. The number 1 preference for everybody in the town was County Court, which is the condominium complex that is off of 109. We went to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts with that as our number 1 option, and the Commonwealth signed off on it. So when we go to town meeting, that will be the option. That was the option voted upon by the town, and the option that has been approved by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We are going to go one step further and also ask the Attorney General to confirm that this site is in compliance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts's requirements.
Do you know what the timing on that is?
It will be before town meeting. I think they're there right now. So, you know, the way we envision rolling this out is on the 18th, the planning board will, on August the 18th, will make a presentation to all the boards and committees because we believe that it's unclear that people will come out for this town meeting to vote because they just don't know it's on the radar and they don't know how important this is to Dover. So I think what everybody needs to recognize is not passing this and not being in compliance with this means that we are at risk to lose grants. And those grants come in the form of all these highway grants, building grants, infrastructure grants. The governor has even threatened to pull school funding. And if you know, in Marblehead, which is the latest community, it passed a town meeting, it failed at the polls, and the very next day, Marblehead lost millions of dollars in grants. So this is not a threat, it's a fact. So any grant that may have been approved, if you're not in compliance, there is an excellent chance that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts will pull that grant. You know, we went back because we have no idea what future grants may be. So we went back to look at past grants to try and get a feel for what's the dollar amount that we are potentially going to lose. And some years it's 500,000 a year. Some years it's 2 to 3 million. So on average, we're at risk to lose about $1 million a year. The bigger grant that we're at risk to lose is the one for the Center Street Bridge, which approximates $15 million. So this is a real cost to the town of Dover to be non-compliant. I think we also need to really understand the nuances of non-compliance. For instance, Needham was not contesting this. What Needham did is they went to town meeting with a plan that was more than what was required by the MBTA Communities Act. And they have a representative town meeting. It passed a representative town meeting. It failed at the polls because what the voters in Needham wanted was only to be compliant. They didn't want to do more than what was necessary. So Needham is out of compliance because it didn't pass, but I believe they're going back to the town and have no reason not to believe that it's not going to pass. Another example is Weston. You know, people are saying that Weston is fighting it. Again, you need to look at the details of all these things that are going on. One of Weston's train stations is closing, and so Weston is negotiating with the Commonwealth to reduce the number of units that is required because the one train station is closing. So really the one town that has fought this is Milton, and they've lost all their grants and they've spent close to $1 million in legal fees. So, you know, I think if you don't like this zoning requirement, the way to get it changed or to try to get it changed is through your state representatives. It's a law, and clearly our government or the government of the Commonwealth is enforcing it. So we really do have a lot to lose by not passing this. And I think what our responsibility is as leaders of the town, all of us, is to make sure that people understand, citizens understand the ramifications of voting no. And, you know, we will have meetings with the people at county court, but, you know, if you use your common sense and think about how could this be developed as an MBTA community? Some developer would have to buy all the units at market. They would have to tear all the units down. They would have to build a community that is in compliance with MBTA zoning, which actually forces the developer to adhere to the town's bylaws. So you should not confuse MBTA communities with affordable housing, because actually the MBTA Communities Act restricts the number of units that are affordable to 10%. And they may give you a waiver to go up to 20. So this is not an affordable housing zoning law. It's very, very different. And that's why I say it's so important that all of us understand the nuances and understand what the ask is, so that the information that we present is accurate and factual. So tomorrow evening, the planning board is coming to the Board of Selectmen. What we are going to look at is the actual wording for the zoning bylaws, which our attorneys have looked at, Massachusetts has looked at. So, from our perspective, it's something that we just have to pass or agree to. Those will be put on the website. And then again, we need to make sure that the town understands the schedule and the ramifications to voting no. The town has a lot to lose if we vote no.
Gavin and Kevin, obviously we're talking about MBTA Communities Act as the first topic tonight. So other questions, discussion?
Can I ask a question, Robin? I think it's pretty clear what you just described as there are not idle threats by the state in terms of the impact of this. But isn't the on the front end of this, just to understand a little bit more, I did read the material on the planning board site, and you mentioned or referenced the three areas that they looked at was County Court, something called the Meadows, and
Right, which is
Junction
over
Street.
by Dover Market.
Okay, and then Junction Street. And as I read it, it said County Court, there were some issues that put Meadows on the table. You couldn't do that. And it came down to those
Right.
two other sites. And then suddenly said County Court was the best one. And then it went on from there. And I
Right.
would expect people to say, well, why was it the best one? And then to your point around a developer, if they did want to do it at County Court, would have to knock everything down and start over. Why is that? I don't understand the details.
Well, if you think, well, this is how I look at it. I mean, maybe they could. Well, first of all, that's a 40B. So it's been zoned for 40B. So there were certain variances that happens. So, you wouldn't be able to do some of the things that were done at county court under the MBT, because the MBTA zoning bylaws have to abide by whatever the town, it allows for more dense housing, but it doesn't allow for the types of variances that are allowed under 40B. Like for 40B, developers can do a lot more than and I'll double check this with the planning board, but when I think about it, that's how I think it would have to happen. Like
Yeah.
you would probably have to tear it down, build something new that's in compliance.
But all this does is it creates a district, right?
Correct.
Which
So
is
it's a
compliant.
zoning requirement. So let me give you an example. Foxborough, their MBTA overlay district is Patriot Place, including Gillette Stadium.
Mm. Okay. But in order to do anything in that district, you have to meet all the other rules, right? The
Right.
water and sewer and all of those kinds of
Right,
things.
exactly.
So
So
I'm-
it doesn't give you any variances, and you may be able to get more units in there than maybe they have in county court, but I mean, it would be from a business standpoint, I just don't see why a developer would do this.
Yeah. So in this information session, I assume they'll be talking about those details. And you would
Right.
expect at the town meeting, if somebody's hot about what particular area you're talking about, they need to understand that this is just one early step, that there's lots of other hurdles you'd have to get over that may be difficult to achieve, right?
Right. I mean, it just may not make it cost effective or may not make it a business proposition for a developer. But I think the most important thing for us all to know is right now it is a zoning requirement, period. Like nobody's saying you have to build.
And
But that's a good question, Marty. I'm not sure my answer was accurate, so let me get a good answer from Carol.
Simone.
Marty, yeah, so we have a new town planner. I don't know if everybody knows. So she was extremely helpful, at least from my point of view, to explain how this whole thing happens. And I'm expecting that she will talk during the meeting as well.
Right.
But basically what she explained to us is this compliance and the way that the area is selected is basically an Excel spreadsheet that you plug a lot of information, run its own thing, and then spit it out the best area ranked based on the requirements that we have. And to Robin's point, it's zoning, not building. So I think that the most difficult part, for what I understood, is to separate. This is not 40B. This is completely different story. And it's not to say that tomorrow we're going to have 112 units popping up in Dover out of control. It's just
Right.
not how it is. That's it. I don't know if I even dare to say that, the same way that we change the accessory dwelling rules, and not every single house in Dover start building something on the next day. That's pretty much what will happen, right? So it's allowed, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen.
Right. And to the point, maybe my vision is wrong. Maybe a builder wouldn't tear down what they have, but they would then have to add things. I think it just becomes very costly
Yeah.
because to sell things, you have to make everything look the same and
Yeah, the economics are going to drive the ultimate.
right.
Other comments, questions?
So I think I would like to say one more thing. I mean, everybody who should attend that meeting on August 18th. It is going to be via Zoom, but it would be good to listen. I think at that meeting or somewhere close, or maybe after that meeting, the planning board is really looking for all committees to take a vote so that they can say at town meeting which committees, what the vote was in favor or against this zoning bylaw. So I think it's important to get as much information as you can and be comfortable with it. I think the other distinction that's really important is the planning board is taking the lead for the town because it does fall under their purview, but they're doing it as a partner to the Board of Selectmen. And when we look at our options for compliance or non-compliance, it's became clear to us that you only had one option, and that was compliance with the law. So the planning board is doing the heavy lift, but we're there by their side.
Robin, I have a question about what you said before. I went to a number of the meetings of the planning board, the informational
Right.
meetings that they did, the public meetings, they were great. So Jody's amazing. She's so helpful.
Right.
But when you say that the citizens of Dover chose county court, I hadn't seen that happen. Was there a vote, or do you just mean by consensus of these meetings, it was clear, or was there something that actually happened that sort of chose?
So they had all those information sessions and they would tally up the votes, and then my memory is a little fuzzy, but I also believe a survey went out
Yeah,
to
there was
members
a
of the
survey.
town and people, and they gave the 3 sites and that overwhelmingly came back as the
Ah, okay.
#1 choice for the town of Dover.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just a reminder, the Zoom meeting invitation, if you could send it, Woody, do you have it to everybody so that others on the committee can attend?
The 18th?
Yeah,
I don't have it yet.
yeah, okay, because I don't have it either, so I thought maybe you had it.
No, I don't think and Jody have sent
I
it.
think it's gonna come from Mona. But
It's a
I
Monday night.
can
We're talking
double
about,
check.
we're talking
I
about
can
August
double,
18th.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to
But
express.
even if you're on the beach, please attend the meeting.
I'm going to express 2 concerns I
I'll
have.
be in the plane.
One is
This
that,
one I cannot.
One is that uh, it seems like we may have squandered an opportunity as a town in the context of the MBTA Communities Act to rethink or to think more globally about housing in Dover and how things go forward. We are with County Court, we're complying with the letter, but not the spirit of the MBTA Communities Act, and a number of other towns have done essentially the same thing. Housing remains a tremendous economic break in the Commonwealth, and it seems likely to me that if the MBTA Communities Act plays out the way it has, something more restrictive is going to be passed by the state. The governor clearly considers expanding the housing stock to be a major issue for the state. So I just think we need to be aware of that and aware of the fact that as a town, while we are complying with the letter of the law, and I'm absolutely in favor of us doing so. It feels as though the discussion about housing in Dover needs to continue in a pretty aggressive way in terms of long-term planning as to where things go, because it's not, I think in the planning board's long-range vision, cluster housing is actually something that they advocate. Not cluster housing that would comply with MBTA communities, but a change from what we currently do. So it feels as though this is it's important to comply with MBTA communities, but it's important that the discussion around housing and how things work continues after this special town meeting. Robin?
Well, I just want to remind people that we do have the Dover Housing Task Force that meets the last Wednesday of every month. And on that are all the land use committees, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Health. And the town gave that committee $200,000 to actually study various housing options. And we went out to bid for an RFP last year, and we only got one bid back, and it was somebody that really didn't provide us with a proposal for a bid, and that's because most of the consultants were working on MBTA Communities Act and just didn't have the bandwidth. We went back out to bid, actually got 3 bids a month ago, and very pleased that Melissa is going to has joined us, and she is actually going to take the lead as we select a consultant, and that's exactly what this consultant is being tasked with. It's to look at different types of housing options for the town of Dover that would diversify our housing stock, and then also dovetail that with the kinds of bylaw changes that would be necessary to affect these types of developments. We felt strongly, the Dover Housing Task Force, that what we needed to be able to do was give the town pictures of what these potentially could look like on a various site, and then even maybe reach out to large property owners to see if maybe this was something when they decided to sell their properties, if they wanted to work with the town and really put together a friendly type of more diversified housing development. So this is something that we are looking at as a town. It's at its infancy, and we really do hope to bring something back to the town that people would be able to embrace, because the first step is us changing our bylaws. I mean, we can't do anything unless we change our bylaws. So.
Other comments, questions? Okay. if not-
Yeah, Woody, what is our responsibility as a committee in terms of generating material for public? Do we, you keep saying blue book, I'm like, we have to do a blue book or,
No blue book for this. It feels as though, as a committee, we're still. I actually copied this. Wait a second. So the charge for the warrant committee from the town website is the warrant committee's function is to review, vet, and recommend to the Board of Selectmen and town voters the annual budget and all town articles in preparation for the annual town meeting. So I think we have the same obligation for a special town meeting that we do for the May town meeting. We are responsible for reviewing, vetting, recommending action on the bylaw. There's not going to be a blue book published and distributed. There will be something sent around to town residents, and I think we should have our own statement and a vote of the warrant committee on the bylaw. So a recommendation and a vote.
It's going to be similar to what we did for the Springdale property, where there was an executive summary that went out to each household. So I think we made that one green, so you can pick a color, and then there was, you know, the Board of Selectmen's recommendation, the Warrant Committee's recommendation within that. But it's just a few pages, and really the planning board is going to be writing the recommendation. And that's why it's important for the warrant committees as a committee to decide whether or not this is something that they support.
Kevin.
Oh, yeah. Hey, thanks, Woody. So just so I understand, when is the special town meeting?
This 29th of September.
Okay, and then we have to, this is the only thing that's being discussed at that meeting?
Yes.
And what's a quorum that you have to have?
So a quorum is 175.
Even for
yeah.
a special town meeting?
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, we do have the ability to lower the quorum just in general, but you know, we feel really strongly that this would not be the meeting to do that at. So we really do need 170, and that's why it's so important that at least all of us in government show up to this meeting.
Right. And then what percentage of the vote to pass?
It would be, it's a bylaw. That's a good question. I'm not sure if it's 2/3 or a majority. I need to double check. And then it's also going to the ballot.
I think they mentioned that would be majority.
Yeah,
Yes, I
that
think
sounds
you're right.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you mean to the ballot?
I think we have to have a vote as well.
But-
Because that's how
Town
Marblehead lost. You know, it passed a town meeting and then the vote. Dave is on. Dave, do
I-
you remember? I just don't know. Do we also have to have an election on this?
I thought the town meeting is the elect. I thought that's what we do with those clickers. We vote.
And a town meeting is different than a town election. A
Right.
town election occurs with people coming to the townhouse to cast ballots.
Do we need 175 ballots as well?
No,
No.
if you get one in favor, it passed.
That's it. That's what I thought. Okay, good, good.
Hopefully we'll get more than one.
So there does have to be an election for this or no?
I believe so. I'm double checking.
For a bylaw, there should be.
Yeah, I don't recall that being mentioned by Carol and Jody, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking because that's how Marblehead lost, and that's what made me think about it. Let me ask Carol.
Okay, why don't we move on? So again, just the materials on a lot of background material on the website under the planning board under housing. And there's a tab for MBTA Communities Act that has a lot of background material, plus the current bylaw that I believe is the one that's been vetted with the state.
Right.
So so you can do a lot of preparation for the August 18th meeting at any time. And then when we get information from Carol or Jody about the Zoom call, we'll make sure everybody gets it. And then we'll have a warrant committee meeting toward the end of August after the 18th so that we can have our vote.
The MBTA website says only to vote at town meeting. It doesn't say
Okay.
anything else.
Thank you.
It is a simple majority at town meeting.
Okay.
And it depends on the community's structure on whether or not there needs to be an election. And I actually don't know the answer to that either. So
Yeah.
we can get it for you tomorrow for sure.
All right.
Yeah, I texted Carol. We might be able to get it to you tonight. I'm not sure. I never thought of it until it lost at the polls in Marblehead. So
All right, great. So turning to the working groups, I send it around at least a couple of emails. Discussion. A few topics. How are we going to structure the working groups? Did people agree with the three groups that I proposed and the memberships? Do we want to let each group kind of set their meeting frequency? Are we going to expect reports back to larger group at some regular intervals? Um,
Yeah.
uh,
What do you- I don't,
how do we hold ourselves accountable?
I don't know that we need a chair. I know that was one of the questions that you asked. Because it's our first year of doing this, I don't know, it seems, I don't know that, I was concerned there might be unintended consequences in sort of over formalizing this process,
Yep.
the first. So I thought if it can be informal working groups to start, that might help us to be more nimble if we need to change things up.
Yep. The two groups that have some kind of deadlines kind of looming would be the guidance letter and the Blue Book revision. So there's not a intense time pressure for either one, but both of those need to be acting so that sometime this fall we're ready. I think we sent the guidance letter around October 1st, or the goal would be to send it around October 1st. And for the Blue Book revision, we can certainly go later than that, but it'd be nice to have some idea as to how much of a revision we're going to manage before, and to start working on what we want to do.
So Carol got back to me and she said, just town meeting, one vote is certainly enough. So,
Great.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
yeah.
Woody, question, uh, would the working groups meet during our regularly scheduled times? Like, in other words, maybe, you know, I don't know, is this gonna add another meeting? Like there's the weekly warrant committee and then your working group, or would,
Yeah, I think we have to decide as a group how we want to manage that.
because I certainly don't want to add more meetings to the schedule, but so that's why I'm just trying to think if like if maybe it's like an every other full warrant committee, and then any off weeks it's the working group. So it sticks to the one meeting a week, on Wednesday nights or whatever night we choose, but some kind of an alternative like that. I don't know. It's just a thought.
So I don't think it's necessarily true that all the working group action has to occur in meetings. Revising the blue book could be a iterative process that occurs as people trade stuff back before we may ones to divide up pieces of the blue book to kind of make recommendations about to one another about, meet once, go back and do some revisions on our own, whatever.
Right.
And similarly with the guidance letter, I think there may be some meetings that need to occur, but there also might be some background work that people can do, and uh, think about how the guidance letter might be drafted, that sort of thing. So I'm certainly not going to suggest that we add on a second weekly meeting or something like that. I think that would be completely counterproductive.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even think we need regular meetings with the working groups. They should just decide as they need to meet or work together, however.
I think
To
that
get,
that works really well, usually in my experience.
So each working group will just figure out when and if they need to meet.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
I'm happy to set up the Zooms for any meetings that do occur. That's relatively easy to do.
and Woody, this puts you on all three working groups. Is that?
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's um, but a deliberate, more to be able to pay attention to kind of what things are doing. But I'm assuming that I'm not going to be the one primarily responsible for each group.
Okay.
Other thoughts, comments?
So it seems you'll know then when we need to report back, because you'll be, you don't have to do the reporting, but you'll know as you watch the groups progress, you'll know when we should be reporting back to the bigger group.
Right. I think so. Yeah.
And so we wouldn't be like, we wouldn't be talking about ideas yet for like what we think should be in the guidance letter. In other words, we would meet as a working group to start to discuss that stuff.
Yeah. I think that'd be the general idea, is that the group would, or it might even do it by, email to
Right.
discuss what kind of background information you think you need as a group to start to think about what goes into the guidance letter.
Right.
You all should have a copy of the of last year's guidance letter. I believe it's in our shared drive if you don't have it in your email. But so you could start there and start to think about what kind of information would be helpful to Marshall, and then maybe get together with Chris and Michael at some point as a group, or have a Zoom with them. But I think a lot of this could be done by email without necessarily meeting. I will say there's one, it is making me nervous that that Jim's not been able to come up with a ninth member. You know, if, there's enough work that we have to do as a group that if we're down one, or if someone else just needs to leave the committee for some reason this summer or fall, down two people, we're going to be short kind of heading into the busy season. So I do think recruitment is something that we shouldn't ignore.
So there's the 7 of us. Who's the eighth? Who's the 8th person that's not here tonight?
Sarah,
Oh, okay. And then we just need to recruit one.
Right.
Okay.
so since we are talking about the groups, Robin or Dave, do you know where we are with the communication project that Chris was working on?
So it's in the process of being implemented. You know, it's the Collins Center did the study. We're definitely working to revamp the website. I think it might be good to just have Chris maybe attend one of these meetings and give you an update of what happened, or maybe just, if it's easier for him, just to send an email so I can talk to him about that.
Don't worry, I can reach out to him. I wasn't sure if it was like if they had finalized, because he agreed to actually come to the Warrant Committee to give
Right.
a short
You know,
presentation to us.
he's still slowly working on it. But I believe the actual study was finalized, and we know what their suggestions are, and we've already started to implement some of them, but
Great, thank you.
Any other discussion? So normally the warrant committee is hibernates for the summer. I'm hoping that doesn't happen this year, but I'm not intending for the larger committee to meet. We'll have to meet at the end of August about the MBT Communities Act. Probably have one meeting in early August, but no others, and then start up with a more active schedule in September, middle of September. But in the meantime, hopefully the working groups are getting together and kind of working on the projects.
Sounds good.
All right, great. I'm happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Good. Nina,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Simone,
Yes.
Nish,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
and I'm definitely a yes. Great. So I'll email the individual working groups and just to try and get things rolling, and then we can start to proceed from there.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks, Woody.
Talk to you soon.
Thank
See you, everybody.